hello, everyone. As Ellie said, my name is Leanna Scanian. I'm one of our product specialists here at Core Associates, and I just want to thank you all for attending. During the session, I'm going to review some of the features and the benefits of the Core Cloud Systems credit card reconciliation and expense reporting solution. Joining me, I have Michelle Dorsey, and she is one of our application consultants from the Core Cloud Systems implementation team, and she's going to be helping us out with the Q&A session at the conclusion of the demonstration. Now, some of you might be asking, what is Core Cloud Systems? So I'm going to use this diagram here to hopefully help explain that. And this here is just an illustration of our product suite. And you can see Timberscan is in the heart of it. It's the product we all know and love. It's been our mainstay product as well for many years and where we got our start in the market. And we've had a lot of success with Timberscan over the years and automating the accounts payable process. And we wanted to take that same concept and expand that automation out into the field. Now, we started with our Timberscan Go application for our mobile invoice approvals, and then we introduced our Core Cloud Systems, or CCS, as you'll hear us refer to it probably throughout the day today. And that's our e-forms and workflow management solution. And it integrates with Timberscan 300 as well as Sage 300. And if you sat in my session yesterday, we are in the process of also integrating CCS with Timberscan 100 and Sage 100 Contractor. Now, within CCS, we have a number of standard solutions that are available. And in this session, we're going to be focusing on our CCS, the credit card reconciliation and expense reporting. But we also have solutions for mobile time entry, field purchasing and receiving, and we have an advanced purchasing and an invoice vouchering solution as well. Following this presentation, we have a number of CCS sessions lined up throughout the afternoon, and we'll talk about these applications in a bit more detail there. So if you haven't already signed up, I would definitely encourage you to attend if you're able to. Now, hopefully you understand now what Core Cloud Systems is. So I'm going to take you through the workflow process of the credit card and expense reporting solution before we head into the application. So this here is just kind of the high-level process flow for the CCS credit card. Now, if we think of it, we start over here on the left-hand side. We're going to start with an e-form. So the user experience, if you can envision, they're out in the field or they're at a job site and they need to make a purchase, they're going to take out their mobile phone, click on their CCS mobile application, and they can just record some basic information about that purchase, snap a picture of the receipt, and essentially that's all they have to do. Once that form is submitted, it gets sent into our Core Cloud Systems credit card application. And this is where the accounting staff would manage their responsibilities. And this is where the reconciliation process happens. So whoever's responsible for that today, they would do that within CCS. And the idea is that process can be automated. They can import the statement from the credit card company, and then they can hit a button, and the system's going to automatically reconcile the transactions from the credit card statement to all of the receipts that were submitted by those card holders. Right? So this is where you can see some really big time savings, productivity gains, from the solution. You're going to automate that process, so it's going to extremely cut down on the amount of time you're spending over the manual reconciliation process. And you're also going to save time because you're not going to have to chase the card holders to get the receipts in. Now, once those transactions are reconciled, you would just hit a button and you can transfer those transactions to Timberscan, and they come over as invoices. And there's some configuration options on how you want them to come over to Timberscan. And I'll touch on that more when we head into the actual software. All right, before we head into the application, we have a poll question for the audience. So if you all could just take a moment to answer this, we would appreciate it. And the question is, how many days per month are you spending chasing down credit card receipts and reconciling transactions against the credit card statements? All right, so we'll give everyone a minute to answer, and your options are 1 day or less, 2 to 4 days, or 5+ days. All right, looks like we got some submissions in. We'll give it another 30 seconds. All right, let's see what we got. All right, pretty across the board here, but it seems like the bulk is 2 to 4 days and 5+ days. So quite a bit of time being spent on reconciling and chasing a credit card receipt. So the good news is I think you're really going to like what I'm going to cover here in this session. You'll be able to, like I said, cut down dramatically on the time you're spending now on that manual process. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And if anyone can't see my screen on the core team, please let me know. I'm assuming everyone can see. All right, so this here is the Core Cloud Systems application. And this is the browser version. We have a mobile application as well, and I'll show you that on a couple of PowerPoint slides, probably at the tail end of the application. My Reflector software wasn't cooperating to demo the mobile app, so I'm going to use, like I said, the browser version. But this here is the home page, and this version is what we call a responsive user interface. And so it will resize based on the device that you're on. So this here would be, what it would look like on a phone, and this would be, like an iPad version, and then of course here this would be the desktop version. These tiles here that you're seeing, these are configurable, so you decide what you want your users to see. The My Forms, this will bring you into all forms that particular user has access to. Any forms that are started and not finished would end up in the Unfinished tab here. If you use routing and approval within Core Cloud Systems, any forms you need to approve are going to be in the inbox. And then if you have job-specific forms, those would be under the My Jobs tab. So I'm going to go ahead into My Form, and I'm going to resize this. So we're going to start with the end user experience. So if you can envision, I'm a card holder. I come into My Forms. Now, I have administrator access, so I have access to all the forms. But real world here, they would just have access, like I said, to probably 1 or 2 forms maybe if they're just using the credit card application. We have a standard form for just general ledger coding, one for just job cost coding, and then we have a form that allows for both. And then if you are using the expense reporting, we have a form for expense reports as well. So I'm going to come in here to the job cost coding form. And I'm just going to go ahead and start to fill this out. You can see the form is pretty easy to use. It's big. We try to have large buttons and fields here to really make it user-friendly for end users and field users especially. These fields here, you can just start typing in, and as you do that, you're going to be presented with some options. And if you're on the mobile app, you're just going to be using your finger to click into these fields. And the other nice thing about the mobile application is you can use the dictation. So you can just, speak into your phone, and it will do voice-to-text transfer, if I'm saying that correctly. And for a vendor, I'm just going to type in Home Depot. And we'll put an amount in here, we'll say $50. And notes, I'm going to say safety signs for a job site. And then here you can capture an image of the receipt. If you're on the mobile application, when you hit this button, you're going to either launch your camera or it's going to bring you into your gallery if you've previously taken a picture. If you're on the browser version like I am here, this is going to just bring you out to your network. And here, I'll just grab this receipt here from Home Depot. And this might be all that your end user does. Now, if you want your end users to code, then they can come to the second section of the form here. And on the mobile device, this is actually a second tab. And this is where they can just put in their coding. And you'll notice here the job lookup. All right, these are Google searches. So we have access to your job file from Sage, and they're just going to be presented with a lookup. So I'll select this job. And again, the cost coding, it cascades based on the job you're on. So you can do a lookup, or you can just start typing in, and it's going to narrow down those results for you. If you have multiple lines, you can just hit New Entry, and you can enter a second line item. And then the last section of the form is the signature. So you could have your user sign it. You can set up e-signatures as well, so then all they have to do is hit a button. And then you can confirm the signature, and then you can either route the slip. So if you do have some workflow set up within Core Cloud, you could route it, or you could just submit the form. Now, and that's essentially it from the end user experience. All right, so very simple, really straightforward and easy to use. Now, once the forms are submitted, we're going to take a look at, I'll call it the back office experience. So if I'm in accounting and I'm the one that's doing the reconciliation of the credit cards, I would come into the credit card application. And then you can see we have this dashboard here, so I can see, what's in progress, what's open, what's reconciled for statement items and the receipts. And then I have some buttons across the top here. So there's some initial setup that you would do. You'd have to set up your card suppliers and then your employee cards, and that's done as part of the implementation process. And then the statement button, this is where you would upload your statement. And you can filter. So if you just wanted to look at open as an example. And if you hit this button, this is where you would import your statement. And you can put a beginning date and an ending date. And most of our customers that use the system have moved to a weekly reconciliation. So instead of just doing it monthly, they're doing it more often now. And the benefits of that are you can get your costs onto your jobs quicker. If you're running into any kind of limits on your cards, you can get your vendors paid faster and get those limits down. And here you can put a beginning balance and an ending balance, but you don't have to. And then your description. Now the description is going to show up here in this description field. So if you are doing a weekly reconciliation, you might want to put the month and the week ending date or something, whatever's going to make sense to you so you can easily identify the statement that you want to use. And then here you would pick your card supplier and hit import. Now, there's an initial mapping process that you use. So when you set up a new card supplier, you map that to the proper format to be imported. And once that's done, when you go to import subsequent statements, they're going to be automatically formatted. So it's really quick and easy to get those statements into the system. So if we click on the actual statement here, over here on the left, these are my statement items. And then over on the right, these are all the receipts and e-forms that were submitted by your cardholders. Now, to reconcile, you can just select all of your statement items and all of the receipts and just hit reconcile. Right, and the system goes out and matches what it can. And then anything left is what's here on the screen. So if there's any potential matches here, the red means this form wasn't submitted. But, looking at the dollar amounts and, looking at the dates, it doesn't look like there's any matches here. So from here, these are all transactions that you haven't had any backups submitted. So you can select all of these and just send an email, and that's going to ding those card holders and let them know that, you need backup for these particular transactions. Right, and if they have, multiple, you can send them all at one time. On the receipt side here, if you hover over each one of these icons, it's going to give you a little tool tip. The paper clip here, this is where you can actually view the receipt. This tells you whether the form was submitted. this little hamburger option here, this will actually bring you into the e-form. So if something wasn't submitted, or in the scenario where maybe you don't want your cardholders to do the coding, you can go directly into that e-form. You can change the information. You could complete the coding. Or if they didn't submit it and you wanted to submit it on their behalf, you could do that as well. And then the little eyeball here, if you hover over, this is going to show you, the coding on the form. Now, once everything has been reconciled, and you can do a partial reconciliation as well, so even if you don't have everything cleared out, you can come in here and you can see the total amount versus what's been reconciled. And then you can use this transfer to Timberscan option. So this is going to transfer those transactions and send them over to Timberscan as invoices. And you have some options on how they go over to Timberscan. So I'm going to pull up Timberscan here, and we'll take a look at this particular invoice here. Now, this is an example of receipt style, and this is what most of our customers are using, where you'll see the image of the form that was filled out along with any receipts that were attached. And then down here, you'll notice all this information came in for me. So this came over from CCS. I didn't have to, double enter any information. And then the other option would be statement style. And in that version, you would just see the image of the statement here. You wouldn't see the receipts because, for a statement, you might have hundreds of receipts. So those get sent over to Timberscan AIM indexed, and then you can access them via the supporting document button. So those receipts are linked to a statement ID. So what we do there is we set up a field for the statement ID, and you can search by statement ID, and then you would just see all of the receipts for that particular statement. So you can view them from the supporting documents option. Now, the nice thing about having it come over as receipt style is that you then have access to each of these individual transactions. So if you need to produce any kind of substantiating billing backup, you'll have that information available. So when you do your inquiries and you generate that packet, you can include your credit card receipts as well. Now, depending on whether you use Timberscan or not, you can use Timberscan for your routing and approval. So if you opt not to use any routing and approval in Core Cloud, when it comes over to Timberscan, you can dictate where what phase it comes in when it comes over here. If you want to use routing and approval in Timberscan, that's great. You already have your routing rules and everything set up. Or if you don't want to do any kind of approval in Timberscan, you can just have it go to either final review or directly to the export queue. So that's something that you talk about with your consultant during the implementation to determine, where in the process it would come over into Timberscan. All right, so I'm going to head out of Timberscan now. And so that's the credit card portion of the program. If you're using or managing expense reports, the concept is the same as far as it starts with a form, and that expense report would just be another form available to your end users. So if we come in here and we provide an out-of-the-box version, all of our standard solutions come with standard forms. You can modify them or tweak them if you want to. That's an option. And this would be the standard expense reporting form. So again, I can come in here, and if you start typing, in this scenario, you're going to have your employees set up as vendors in Sage, and then you can put a description in. So maybe it's a trade show that I attended. I'm going to pick my date here. And now we're getting into the expense detail. So the expense might have actually taken place the week prior, and you're coming in here and you can see you can do GL or job expense. So in here, you can either search or just start typing, and again, it's going to narrow down those results for you. And you might have, multiple line items. So you can come in and start typing, and you would, create as many lines as you need to. You might have airfare, you might have hotel expense, food expenses. So you would put all those line items in there accordingly. And then you can also track mileage, right? So if you were using your own vehicle and wanted to track the mileage, you can do that here as well. And then you can set up some mileage rates. And then when you come down here, you hit save, and then the system will total up your reimbursable, expenses here. And then at the bottom, this is where you would attach your receipt images. And on the expense form, you have both a submitter signature and an approval signature. And so again, you could route this for approval within Core Cloud Systems. If you submit it, the difference between the credit card application and the expense reports is we have a separate expense approval grid. So the expense reports are going to come in here, and you can see at the top here how many reports are in here. So there's 3. And if I scroll down to the bottom, this shows me all of the reports, who submitted them, the description for what it is. And then if I scroll over here, I can see these are opened. So if I'm a manager and I come in here to approve those expense reports, I can click on it and approve it. If I want to drill into the detail about that expense report, I can come up here and, I can click on a particular report, and then I'm going to see the individual line items, right, and how that information was coded. And I could add another line item if I needed to, or you could, send it back to the user if there's something wrong. But once you've reviewed your expense reports, you have options down here on the bottom to, you can approve all or you can approve individual. And then you can either export them as a CSV file or you can transfer them to Timberscan. Right? And again, you have options on how they go over to Timberscan. If you want to, have them go through a routing and approval in Timberscan, you can do that as well. All right. What I'm going to do quick, I just wanted to show the just a couple of screenshots of the mobile application, and then I wanted to show the search tool as well. So I'm just going to pull up my PowerPoint just to give you an idea of what the mobile application looks like. You'll see here you have your tabs here on the mobile form, and you would just click into My Forms. And then I actually jumped ahead in this one, but you would see your forms here. I picked the job cost coding form, but you can see it's separated into sections. So you'd have your card info, then your coding, and then the approval signature. So if you don't have your users do coding or the approval, they may only need to use this first tab here. So when they click on the card info, they're going to be prompted with this screen here. This is where they would enter the line item detail. And then that third tab would be the signature. So they can complete that and they can submit it. Right? But the dictation is really nice on the mobile application, saves from on the typing. Now from the search, the one nice thing about Core Cloud Systems is because it's a data-driven application, all of the information that you're recording on those forms is stored in the system and you can search for it. So you can search by user. Now, as an individual, I'm only going to see my information, but if you have admin rights, then you would be able to see, everybody's information. You can look at job forms only. You can select from forms, or you can look at everything. You can put specific date ranges in here. And then when you hit search, you're going to see anything that meets that, criteria. And up here at the top, so these are all my unfinished forms, and then down here are my submitted forms. So then I can do a more detailed search into either one of these categories. So, if I just wanted to see my Home Depot receipts as an example, now I'm only seeing my Home Depot receipts. Or, maybe I want to see, my receipts that just had signs. Right, so you can really narrow that down. And then you can also look at the answers. So again, all of the data from the actual form, and you can also create a PDF. So this is nice if, if a user bought something and, maybe it's in fit or they need to return it, and if they can't find the receipt, they can always just pop into the search and find that receipt if they're at, Home Depot and need to make a return. So it's really nice to have access to all that historical information. All right, so I'm going to pause here. We've got just a couple of minutes left, so I want to make sure we leave time for questions. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen here.
How does the statement reconciled to Amex transactions run as checks in our Sage AP system?
So on checks in our Sage AP system. So the Amex statement, if you use Core Cloud Systems, then you're going to bring those, you'd import that Amex statement. So whether it's Amex or MasterCard, the statement would be brought into Core Cloud Systems, and the reconciliation is going to happen within Core Cloud Systems. So the transactions will come into Core Cloud. They would move to Timberscan, and even if you're not an existing Timberscan user, then Timberscan could serve really more as your document repository and conduit to then get those transactions into or invoices into Sage, and then once they're in Sage, your process for paying those invoices is going to be the same. All right. Question, can they fill in just the job number and leave the cost code for the PM to fill out? So the question is, can they fill in just the job number and leave the cost code for the project manager to fill out? The answer to that is yes. You can do partial coding, and that can be done either in Core Cloud, or if you are using Timberscan and you want to use the routing and approval process within Timberscan, they can go over to Timberscan, and then you can just use your routing rules. So if your workflow is based on job, then you can just go ahead and route that off by job, and the project manager can finish the coding. Thank you all.